Welcome back to Legacy Builders. This is episode 2 of our mindset series. So last episode we talked about how we are going to continue and actually describe more and dive deeper into like mindset and how to change one and what all that means. So I'm excited about this episode.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you all for joining in and tuning in, and that must mean you're interested enough, you learned something where you're going to tune back in and hear what we have to say about this. We just, or thanks, Mom, for tuning in and supporting us.
Grandma.
Yeah, Grandma. Thanks for our loyal family supporters. But no, really, we get lots of testimonies and comments of things, people that it blows our mind. Some of the people that actually listen in and tune in and they're like, "Hey, that was really good stuff." And we're like, "Oh, you listened to that?
I know.
that's awesome." So we wouldn't be making it available to everybody if it wasn't impacting lives. And so we definitely know that we're influencing and impacting lives, and people just encourage us to keep doing what we're doing, and so we are.
We're going to keep doing it no matter what.
No matter what. So if anything, for our next generation, we're going to keep doing it. So
yep, for sure. But
yeah, like Madison said, we're going to dive into talking about more about mindsets and specifically how to change mindsets. Last episode, we kind of share with you, encourage you to start becoming aware of these different mindsets that you have and how they can be different. And we gave an example of a victim versus a victor mindset, where one person is, challenges are going to happen in life regardless. One group of people will go through and be like, oh, their life is dictated by these challenges and problems in their life. They become victim to circumstances. A victor mindset, for example, would be like, yeah, stuff's going to happen, but I'm going to continue to move on regardless. I'm not going to let that issue or situation dictate my life. And so we believe that we all get to a point where we start to realize I might want to do some things different than how I've done things growing up. And so like Madison's age group right here, they're to the point where, there's a whole world out there. I want to do something different. And so we're going to talk about how to identify those mindsets and how to do them different. And for those of you who are Bible readers, there's a scripture in Romans that says, "Do not conform any longer to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." And so these mindset things isn't all this weird stuff that Madison and Eric just decided to talk about for one episode. We think that it's important that if the Bible talks about renewing your minds, it might mean that we might have some minds that need to be renewed.
Yeah. Might need to figure out what that means.
We might need to figure out what that means. And I always like that whole word renew. Like, oh, it was new before, it got old, and now we need to renew it. So we need to go back maybe and understand what are some of these things maybe we are supposed to be thinking, or a better way to be thinking. So I always like this, have your mind renewed. So there's that concept right there. So what does that mean? And how do we renew these minds? I'm not, don't worry, we're not going to start preaching at you today and through all this. Not today. Later in the year, we're going to go all out. We're going to have a spiritual, man, I just gave up another.
I know I got first 2 episodes. You did not clear this with me. No.
Right.
That's okay. Be excited.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Well, and the fun thing is the Bible, the scripture talks about renewing your mind. And in all seriousness, there's some things that maybe we could do better, okay, in our life. But as I'm raising Madison, and the whole point of building legacy is I get to now, instead of Madison going out and learning life the hard way and learning lessons, and sometimes, and I laugh at people who say, well, I'm just going to learn, go through the school of hard knocks. Well, why? Why do you want to do that? You don't have to do that. And well, I'll just learn my lessons the hard way. well, really, are you really going to learn the lesson, or are you just going to be doing things the hard way your whole life?
Good question.
So doing things the hard way doesn't automatically mean you're going to learn the lesson by doing it the hard way. It just means you did it the hard way. And so, sometimes you can learn lessons from somebody who went through some things and said, hey, don't do this. You might want to listen. And so if I can take some of the things that I have learned and transitioned in my life and said, hey, I did things this way and I chose to make a change and I changed mindsets and did things a different way, Madison, I'm going to share with you what I did, where I'm at now. So now you can process my testimony. You can process my experience and choose for you. If you want to go and learn the hard way, then fine, go ahead and learn the hard way. Or you can do some things. So now, and here's the key why I'm saying all this stuff. Now you don't have to get to the point where you have to renew your mind. Maybe we help get you set off on the right foot so you can build your life and not have to go backwards in order to then lose momentum, lose time because you decided to do things your own way and then come back and be like, okay, I should have listened to Dad in the first place. Are we right? Am I right about everything? No. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that I have some experiences. I've observed other people's experiences, like Madison had mentioned in the last episode. Maybe we want to look at some people who have done some things, have gone through life a little bit longer. And let me add on to that just because somebody has done something for 20 more years than you have doesn't mean that they're more wise. It just means that they've done things 20 more years.
Which is why we talked about you got to filter through. Even just because they're older doesn't mean be humble, but also careful who you're being humble with, kind of. Yeah. In a way, you got to filter through those voices. So that's what we mentioned last time. Yep.
And so, even me, I'm not saying I do everything right. I don't do everything perfect, but if I can help my kids start at a level, if I started down here and I worked my way up to here, I don't want my kids to start down here and work their way up again. What if we have conversation and they do some things a little different than what we did, a little better, a little worse? What if I can help them start up here? Why would I not want to do that? Yeah. And so, then,
well, but we have to respond as well.
I was just gonna say that.
Well, yeah.
Because people will come up to me all the time. And I always love it when they do it in front of Madison or Riley, because they like, hey, you did really good raising your kids. And I said, well, I did my part, but Madison did really good in responding, because I'm only part of the equation. I did my part by presenting information, presenting mindsets, presenting, ways of doing things, but they still have to respond.
And honestly, being a part of those conversations and hearing that just grows your respect, or in my respect for you, because, it's just like a boss. You don't want to be there in the conversation and you have put all this work into a project too and stuff like that. And they just take all the credit. They say, thank you. I did great. This was all my doing. And you're sitting there like, oh, okay. So I didn't do anything
right.
But so I think it's just such a cool thing to witness, and such a amazing leadership standpoint for a parent to humble themselves and say yeah, my kid had a part of it too. They did their part and responded. So that's a tangent though.
That's a good tangent.
But going back to mindset and going back to what we talked about last time, with who defines your mindset, we talked about parents and how ultimately it starts with the parent. And so you have this concept that you've talked to me throughout my life. And I'm not even gonna say anything. Just you introduce your concept, Dad.
Yeah, and I believe it is a unique concept. I'm writing a book about it, and I think it's gonna be really good to help people to understand. So, and I call it the circles of influence, or levels, circles. I like circles of influence, and it's something like this. So now Madison gets to a point where she wants to do some things different. She wants to change some mindsets. She wants to start making some changes in her life. And not only changes in her life, but then these belief systems in her life, right? And so when you're going through life, and I'll use this example for a belief system. Let's say I'm trying to build Madison up and grow, and I'm saying, hey, you're amazing, you can do anything, and you're gonna conquer the world, whatever, these positive influences. And then she goes out to the store one day and she's walking around, and maybe runs into somebody and they said, watch out, you're stupid. So now there's this comment, so now you're faced with this comment of like, oh, this person said that I'm stupid. And for most of us in this level or this circle of people, we call it, the crowd, if you will, this crowd of people that the influence. Like, well, I'm just going to blow that out. Who are they? They don't know me. I don't think nothing of it. I don't dwell on it. I move on. It's whatever. You still have this, you still have this core belief. And then let's say the next day you go by and you're at a family gathering, and a distant relative, that's stupid. You're stupid. And like, wow, that hurt a little bit. Like the other person said this, last week, and then now this person said it. It's, yeah, that I mean, okay, you don't really know me. I see you at a family gathering once every 2 months or twice a year. Yeah, whatever. So that, now you get to a little bit more intimate circle, right? And then as you go in, I won't go through every level, but as you go in, you start getting into this inner core circle of people. What if your best friend came up to you and said, all of a sudden, just randomly, just like, what are you doing? You're just stupid. And you're like, what? Like, why would you say that? Now there's an issue. This influence, this voice has way more impact. What if your parent then says, you're stupid? This is why parents need to really understand their level of influence in their child's life. I absolutely hate it when I hear parents tell their children these types of things, because you don't realize you are at the core of their influence. And those comments and those words just go right into their soul and into their mind, and they start to adopt these things with these mindsets. And even on the contrary, I mean, I tell Madison, you can do anything, and she believes it. I don't know, maybe you can, since I've kind of explained this, maybe share. I know there's a couple of stories that you have in your mind about that very thing, where I would tell you could do something and you believed it to a certain, to that level.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not positive exactly the stories maybe you're talking through, but like I just remember that growing up as a kid, and I was like, and we did talk about it. I was like, especially too, like you encouraging me, like, and being like, you're no different from like a man, as the fact, like, you can't do this because you're a girl. Like, you wouldn't say that. You'd be like, no, you can do anything. Like, you're powerful, like all of these things, and you're a leader. All those things. And I mean, I really believe them, especially as a kid, and like, especially through that. And I think we went on too, and like, are you going to add something to that?
I was just going to say, and your confidence level.
Oh, yeah.
So it wasn't just a mindset. It's also the mindset breeds confidence. Remember, we talked about mindset. It's an established attitude.
Right.
So these mindsets create an attitude also. So you had that, that confidence. It just reaffirmed that confidence in you.
Yeah, 100%. And we were talking about this the other day too. We were prepping for this episode and all of that, and we kind of were talking about the belief and all of that. And I was like, Dad, like anything you say at this point, like I would believe you. And I'm saying this as a 22-year-old woman. And he was like, well, would you? And I was like, wait. I was like, wait, like that's what we've been talking about. But then I was like, oh my gosh, would I? And like, because now it's a different dynamic. And now you have this other thing that you talk about, master thoughts,
Right.
and how you're the only one. Do you want to introduce that concept now too? And then we'll
Yeah.
kind
So
of get into that, like all
yeah.
of this.
So because they kind of tie in together. And so the circles of influence kind of it ties in together what I call master thoughts. And master thoughts are these dominant thoughts and beliefs that we have about ourselves that all other thoughts and beliefs derive from. And so a lot of times we change actions and activity, but we don't really change the master thought. And so to really change the master thought, I mean, this is a lot of work, and you've got to go in and make some changes. But that's where these circles of influence, the voices, all these things that you tell people, there's the one circle, the one voice of influence that is the most powerful voice in your spheres of influence. Do you remember what it is?
You.
It's you. It's what you say about you. So everything that everybody else says, it doesn't matter until you believe it, both positive and negative. And so you could have your parents, you could have the core best friend core people tell you something, you're like, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I choose to believe this about myself. And your voice is the one that is the dominant voice in your life. And some people say, well, isn't God's voice? No, you still have to believe it. Do you really believe everything that the Bible says about you? Really? That's the whole point of the master thought. You have to get to the point where you even can believe, for those that read the Bible, to believe what God says about you. It comes back to you, the
Yeah.
circles of influence. So the biggest, the strongest voice in your life is you. And so that's where Madison was talking about. She says, well, if
Yeah.
you would tell me anything, I would believe it. I said, well, would you?
And it stopped me in my tracks. I was like,
Yeah.
man,
Because of
I
that.
actually wouldn't. Like, I mean, I was like, and then it got us into this conversation, and I was like, well, I feel like maybe I would probably, if you all of a sudden said some negative things about me, like maybe I would be prone to believe those more. And I was like, well, why do we do this? Why is that in humans in general? Why do we believe that? And this is a thought I've been just going over in my mind since we've talked about this like months ago too. And so I'm just like thinking about it, and I was like, wow, well, going back to master thoughts, I'm like, there's some cracks. There's some things that I need to work on. There's some insecurities. And that's what that is going about. Because, well, I saw this example too that so blatantly just explained this. And I was like, whoa, because it's all those concepts, but then they mixed it with something like a physical example. And I was just like, wow. So he said, like, if my dad came to me and was like, Madison, I hate your blue hair, I'd be like, okay. Because obviously I don't have blue hair. So what is there to hate? And so it's a core belief, is what he said. And he was like, if you believe that you are confident, you are powerful, no matter what, that is your belief, then even your closest inner circle couldn't taint that. Because like you said, you are your most inner circle. Like your belief in you is the most inner circle. And so that example to me, I was like, that's a really good physical example, because that just makes sense.
And it doesn't say that those comments don't hurt.
Right.
But the old saying, sticks and stones will hurt my bones, but names will never hurt me.
Words
will never hurt me. Yeah. Well, words name.
name. Yeah. I got you.
Yeah.
Different generations.
Yeah. Right. But but that's such a lie, because people, those words that people say dwell more in your confidence and dwell more in your mindset than if you would have just gotten a stick or a stone thrown at you. The physical thing, it hurt, But
Well,
then,
especially like you said, the closer they are, the more that you have that
right,
trust in them, like the more vulnerable you've been with somebody, the more it hurts when they turn that insecurity that they know about back on you.
but I tell you this from personal experience, man, I'm not sure with the inner circle what somebody could say to me that would really hurt. Like that I'd be like, are you okay? I don't know. It's really hard to explain the confidence that I have. Um,
Well, when you backtrack though, like it took you a while to get there
oh yeah,
too. Like, I
yeah.
mean, you you in your like high school, like I'm sure a lot of people were called names and
Oh
like
yeah.
things like that in these circles of people just, I mean, like you said, words hurt and
Right.
just
Well, and what I'm trying to say is, yes, they hurt, but they don't have to hurt all the time forever. Once you experience the hurt, you know what it feels like, and now you can work on that, and not letting that hurt, and you can work on building yourself up. And yeah, I kind of likened the on a Madison the story when the peer pressure story,
mhm.
where the first time kids experience peer pressure and actually standing up to bullies or somebody standing up to peer pressure, it's uncomfortable at the time, but then you stand up to them and they can say whatever they're going to say, but then you're like, I feel good about myself, and that didn't hurt so bad. And then when
Yeah.
it comes up again, you know it may be a little uncomfortable, but it's nothing like the first time that happened. And then after a while, you're just like, I'm just going to be the leader. And what people are going to say, what they're going to do, they're going to do. I can't control what they say. What I can control, how I receive it. And so you start to get control over your life. You start to get control over those emotions. You start to get control over those mindsets and things that people say. It's just like people are going to do what they're going to do. What am I going to do? Am I going to go sit in my room? Am I going to go have my own pity party as a result of it? I will not give that control over to anybody else in my life. I'm
Mm.
not going to let them have that control over me. And so you start to learn, and you start to then just hope, and you might have to distance yourself from some people that were in your inner circle, and now you're just like, wow, this is who my inner circle was. I might need to get some different people in my inner circle. What's that saying? But you become like the people you associate with. I mean, if
Yeah.
you take the 5 people that you spend the most time with in your life, I mean, that's a good indication of where you're going to be or where you're at
Yeah.
in life. And if that's not where you want to be, you might need to go search out some other people, start spending some more time with them to learn things that they're doing and how they treat other people. I'll never forget. I had met some friends of, well, they're friends now. We had them on an episode a while back, Steve and Connie, and I was just amazed. I'm like, I watch like they treat people differently. They treat me differently. They have a belief in me that I didn't have in myself. What is going on here? And so they have a belief in me that others didn't necessarily have in me. And so I'm like, I want to spend time around this belief, and I want to
Mm.
learn what this is about. Then all of a sudden, I started believing in me. So it took having to change your environment too, and to change the people that you associate with. So that might be something you might have to evaluate in your life. I guess we're now somewhat tangenting into.
Well, no, I was going to ask a question too. Like, so
Yeah.
what if you do see that, like, oh, hey, I do have some insecurities that I need to deal with or work through, or some mindsets that I really want to change. I want to be a confident person, but here I am not as confident as I wish I was. Like, what advice would you give? And so one of them being the change your inner circle, I think is a great thing. Do you have anything else like to say?
Well, here's the thing that I really encourage people to do, and I encourage you to do this. A lot of people don't do it, but this is what I did, and this is what I challenge people to do: is you have to write down the things you don't like, and
Mm.
we take those things that you don't like about yourself, and we're going to turn them into a positive about yourself. We're going to counteract that, because remember, who's the most important voice in your life?
You.
You. So it isn't because you think this stuff. I mean, you had to have said something or done something that is verbalizing this, because it's a cycle.
Yeah.
Life and death is in the power of the tongue. From the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So there's this heart issue that we have to deal with. How do we deal with this heart issue? We have to speak it, because when we speak it, we hear it, we can believe it. If I speak it to you, you may believe it, but it's not your voice going in. It's my opinion going in.
Right.
You have to adopt that opinion, and then you have to start speaking that so you can hear it. So then all of a sudden, when this negative voice comes in, like, no, no, stop. That's not true. It's a lie. I believe this. And so there is a battle. There's a battle. I think Joyce Myers wrote "The Battleground is the Mind." She wrote a great book about that. It's a battle, and you have to learn the battle. You have to learn how to win the battle of the mind. And it's always mind games. I mean, you can go look in the sports environment. You watch I watch football or basketball, and they're constantly trying to get into people's heads. They're constantly trying to intimidate the other person. They call it trash talking. So that the trash talking. And there's the great boxer Muhammad Ali. He would always, I'm gonna knock you out in the third round. I'm the greatest fighter in the world. He'd be saying all these things. I watch his press conferences, and I'd watch replays of it. I wasn't around when he did it live. I didn't really know to watch this, but once I learned that, they would say, "Well, why do you trash talk like that?" And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." I was saying that for me. I was saying that so I believed it about me. I wasn't saying that to say anything negative about this guy. I was just building myself up. I was just verbalizing in the moment. I was building myself up, talking my own, hyping my own self up. There's a commercial. I can't remember. I think it was what's the headphone commercial that they'd have it all the time. And I can't remember the basketball player's name. I can't remember what his name is right now.
Oh, is it Michael Jordan?
No, it wasn't Michael Jordan one, but
LeBron James.
No, it wasn't LeBron. I would know those two guys. I was gonna say Kevin Durant, but I don't think it was Kevin Durant.
I think it might have been.
But anyway, they're driving down they're driving down the opposing team. They're approaching the stadium, and they all these signs, and people like, you're terrible, you're no good, shouting all these things, all this stuff, trash talking the bus as he's going by, and he takes these headphones and he puts them on. And says, "You're the man, you're the man, you're the man." And so then it's just this positive things, and his whole countenance changed, and it drowned it out, all of the other voices, and he just heard this voice, and then just kind of sat back and coasted into the stadium. But it's just stuff like that. How do you change it? You have to intentionally, obviously you're not going to do this when you're in a bad mood and you're in a negative situation. Get some sleep. Just go to sleep. Get something to eat. Get some water so you're not hangry, and intentionally sit down and write the negative thing that you have that you want to change in your life, and we're going to flip it to a positive. I want to see myself as a leader. I don't think I'm a leader. I want to see myself as a leader. And we're not just this is beyond, I'm not just talking about, we're going to confess this into existence. No, that's not what I'm talking about. We're talking about belief. Mm-hmm. All right. Confession into existence doesn't happen until there's action. You actually have to do something. Yeah. You can't just confess it into existence. The confession creates belief. Belief creates action. Action accomplishes the thing.
That's so good.
And so, the thing, and we'll, I don't know if I want to talk about belief right now, but because we'll just stick on that. So you have to turn that into positive things that you're going to say about yourself. I remember I was to the point one time in my life, I did not think that my life was worth living. I was just, I might have even been your age. I was just sitting there, and I was just did not feel confident about myself. On the exterior, I could go out to the softball field. I could hit home runs over the fence, and people loved that. But deep inside, I'd go back home, and I didn't believe in myself. I didn't, even to the point where I would have thoughts of ending my life. And I would look in the mirror. I couldn't even look myself in the eye in the mirror. I did not believe in myself. Then I started learning these concepts. I started reading some books, and all of a sudden I did exactly what I told you guys to do, is what I did. I wrote down what I wanted to be. I said, I'm a leader. And so I would go into the front of the mirror and I'd say, you're a leader. You're a leader. You're the best. I would just, you can do anything. You can accomplish anything. There's nothing that you can't accomplish. You're a leader. People like you. People follow you. Now, I would create a tape of I would tell myself this on a tape, and I would listen to myself tell myself this stuff. It sounds crazy, and it may be crazy, but this is exactly what I did. I created a tape, and I would play that tape over and over and over. And all of a sudden, those master thoughts changed. Now you can't tell me I'm not a leader. I don't believe you. I don't believe anybody. You cannot take that away from me, and nobody can tell me that. Nobody can tell me that to where it will. I don't care if my kids tell me that, my wife tells me that. I don't care if the pastor I don't care who tells me that. My best friend. It will not shake me. It will not break me. It's a core in my life. You can't take it away. Impossible. And so that didn't happen overnight. But I got to that point with that mindset. I changed that master thought to I'm not a leader, to a master thought that I am a leader. And it's evident because people like me, people listen to me, people follow me. I lead people. That's what I do today. And that's just how it is. But it took a process of change. And that was kind of a summary of the process that I had to go through to change.
Yeah. I mean, talking through the renewing of the mind that we talked about in the beginning, like that is the process, what you just said.
Yep. 100%.
I have nothing to add. That was all amazing.
Yeah. You guys, it's so simple, but it's so hard to do because your mind, the battle in your mind is going to go back and forth, and you're going to wake up and something's going to happen and you're going to question yourself. But you just if you question it, then you just hit play on the tape. Hit play. You got your phone, record it. Record yourself saying these things. Something happens in your life, just hit play. Because here's a crazy thing. All right. You can think these bad thoughts. You can think all of these negative thoughts that are going on right now, and you're listening to them. So you're processing these things in your brain. The minute you start speaking, you can't think anymore. You have to listen. That's the power of it. You sit in silence and you battle these things in your head in silence, but you don't have an answer. You don't have a response. You have to have a plan of action. Pull out that paper, start reading the paper. As soon as you start speaking that, and the other part I will add to it is I do it in first person and third person. Okay, because when somebody says something, like if I say something to Madison, I said, Madison, you're amazing, right? What's Madison's response to, how would you interpret that? What's your response to that comment?
I would say, yeah, I'm amazing.
I'm amazing.
Yeah.
So, but I said, you're amazing.
So now you're believing it both ways.
Right. See, so I say, Madison, you're amazing. And then you're like, yeah, I'm amazing. So you personalize first person, my third person statement.
Yeah.
So if I third person, Eric, you're amazing. Yeah, I'm amazing. Do you see how it works? Eric, you're a leader. Yeah, I'm a leader. Eric, you're awesome. People follow you. Yeah, I'm awesome. People follow me.
Well, it's almost like both those voices in your head now are agreeing.
Yes. Huh. That's exactly how it works.
Yeah.
But so in order to change, I would have this conversation with Madison. We'll talk about this, about problems. What's my statement about problems?
The problem is never really the problem.
The problem is never really the problem, right? And so many times when you understand that the problem is never really the problem, you start searching beyond the obvious answer. If the problem is never really the problem, and you're trying to solve an answer for this problem, you're not solving an answer for the real problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we have to find the answer to the problem under the problem. Okay, so why do I say that? In mindsets, the mindset isn't just confessing. You have to have a plan. I liken it to this. We'll go on a vacation, or we'll go on a trip, and we'll put into our GPS the address, the destination. Let's say right now we live in Nashville, Tennessee. Even though I can get back to Omaha, Nebraska, probably by memory, let's just say I enter Omaha, Nebraska, and I'm going to drive back home to Omaha, Nebraska. And this GPS is going to take me to Omaha, Nebraska. In fact, if I start going off the wrong way, it'll say, hey, turn around. You got to go. You're going the wrong way. All right. And so now, if I don't want to go to Omaha, Nebraska, and I want this GPS to tell me where to go, what do I have to do?
Change the end destination.
I have to change the end destination. If I change the end destination, GPS will now help me get here. But so many times what we want to do is we want to have the destination to Omaha, Nebraska, and then we want to say, let's say the new destination is New York. All right, totally different, opposite directions from where we're at. All right, and I can't be driving down following this GPS and then say, oh, I'm going to New York. I'm going to New York. That is not going to get me to New York until I change the destination and I have my GPS working with me. Now I can start, so now we change our mindset. I'm a failure. Nothing good happens. I'm not a leader, just I'm a failure, right? And then everything in your life starts pointing to you being a failure. You start hearing, and then someone comes along, hey, you're not a failure. Yeah, I'm a failure. This happened and that happened. And you start talking about all this failure and just, nothing's helping, nothing's working. But then all of a sudden you'd be like, you know what? I'm not a failure. I'm an overcomer. I can do this thing. And you start changing that destination. Then you start lining up the path to get to that destination. The people you associate may change. The vehicle, not the physical vehicle, but the way you get there might have to change. Your conversation is going to have to change. You can't say, oh, I'm nothing ever good happens in my life. Well, you can't say that anymore because the GPS will say, nope, turn around. You're going over here now. Oh yeah, that's right. I am a leader. That's right. Good things do happen to me in my life. So you have to change the end destination. And then all these other things are the path to help get you to that end destination. Like for me, right now, I don't have to convince myself I'm a leader. I am a leader, period.
But you shifted that back when, like, years
Correct.
ago.
Yep.
And so something that we talk about and something that I struggle sometimes to wrap my head around is how do you just change a mindset in an instant?
Right.
And this is something we talk back and forth through and stuff like that. And I'm just like, what does that mean? What does that look like? And yeah, I mean, what do we talk about? What is
Yeah. So one of the things I'll tell Madison, I was like, look, just make a decision. Just make a decision and change.
And I'm like, you make it seem so simple and so easy. And I'm like,
yeah, and that's one of my faults is because I've done this stuff and these types of changes are easy for me because I've done it. And if I find myself getting off course or if I find a new mindset I want to adapt, I can just make the change.
But when you broke it down, it is really simple and easy. The work after is hard, but changing that destination is easy. Like, I mean, if you go through the GPS example, like changing your destination from Omaha to New York is simple.
Yeah, that's
the process to get to New York now takes work.
Yes.
Which, I mean, I pointed out my own question now, but still go back and explain kind of the simplicity of it.
Yeah. You'll hear some people say, well, I just made up my mind, and so I find that interesting. All of a sudden you'll find a concept or, we're in the process right now of going through a Dave Ramsey financial course and learning, some of the mindsets and thoughts, that his program offers. And so many times he even talks about it. He's like, you just have to make a decision. You just have to make the choice. And the choice in the moment is the quickest, easiest part. You're just like, okay, for example, let's say you're racking up credit card debt, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, well, just stop, cut it up. All of a sudden you made the decision to cut up your credit card. Your mind is made up. You now have a new mindset. I'm not living off of credit card debt. You just got rid of it. That person now just made up their mind. to stop using credit cards. That's simple. Now, the process now is you go to the store and you want to buy something, you go back and reach and like, oh, I don't have a credit card. And so there's still the emotion, there's still the thought process that goes through. You're still going to have that struggle with, oh, how am I going to make ends meet? I used to just charge it up. Now you got to make some shifts in your finances in order to compensate for this decision that you made in a moment's time. But now there's a process to making that become a reality. All these emotions, mindsets, processes, habits, patterns, those all have to now start to line up, and you got to figure that out. Once you get it figured out, it's a done deal. It's then at that point, it's like, wow, it took all this effort to get to here, but now you can't convince that person to use a credit card again. And it's no longer an issue. It's no longer a struggle. It's no longer, a thing. And so that's probably a good example of making, the choice is in the moment. Just decide. What if you decide that you want to, but let's say, here's a great sports analogy. Michael Jordan. Many of you may not know this. Michael Jordan, when he went to try out for his high school basketball team, his first time he went to try out, he got cut from his basketball team. I don't know if you knew this, but he made a decision. He was never going to feel that experience again in his life, and he was never going to get cut from the basketball team. He made a decision in a moment. He harnessed that feeling of pain, of whatever he was feeling, and he made a decision. He was never going to do that again. And then the process started. He had to practice. He had to work out. He had to shoot more basketballs than the next person shot. And this guy, he carried that same level into the professional realm. And you would have professionals come onto his team, and they would go out and they would have practice. They'd get to the gym, for practice, the scheduled practice, and they'd see Michael Jordan's already there. And like, oh my gosh, he's already here practicing. They would have practice, and everybody would be leaving, and they'd be like, hey, Mike, aren't you coming? Like, no, I'm going to go practice. So he would practice before practice, practice after practice. And then people are wondering why, I believe he's the greatest in the world, but six championships in 7 years. I think that's pretty good. But anyway, that's an argument for another time. But
what you said, it was the decision, he changed his destination, and that, of course the changes are work, and that doesn't mean he never fell off track or anything like that, but his destination was different now. And so, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it takes work. The decision is the decision. That begins the work to get to that destination, to support the decision. But so many times people sit there and they make the decision the hardest part. Oh, well, I don't know if I do that. They know what the decision means. They know that the decision means you got to stop doing what you was doing. You got to make a change in your life. That's why people don't make the decision, because they know it requires a change. They know they already know what to do.
So what do you say to the people? They're like, no, I've made a decision before, and I've decided before, and I've been down that path and decided. Does that mean that they haven't really made that decision fully? They haven't fully committed to that decision? What would you say?
The decision's a decision. Is it a mindset, or was it a wish? Was it, is it a hope? Is it a decision, and then somebody else is going to have to, who's to blame for the decision not coming to pass? Is it somebody else? What work ethic went behind that decision? So if it was a decision, there would be action behind it. There would be emotion towards accomplishing that thing which the person decided to do. Now, again, it's not to say you don't, get off track. If you decide to go to New York, you're going to New York. You're not going to all of a sudden end up down in Florida. Oh, well, I decide, but then say, I'm going to decide to go to New York again. You go to New York and you end up over in, some other city, Cincinnati. And how come you never make it to New York? You said you've decided to go to New York 5 times, but how come you never made it to New York?
Mm.
Well, why did you get distracted? So now the problem's never, what's the distraction? Why are you never getting to New York? You keep deciding to go to New York, but it always gets canceled. You always wind up somewhere else. Why don't you ever end up in, you say you decided to go to New York 5 times. Well, how come you're not there? How come you never made it there? Now we gotta go back and we gotta analyze and evaluate that. So did they really make a decision, or did they really want to go to Florida? They just said they wanted to go to New York, but wound up in Florida. That's really where they wanted to go. See, that's the whole thing. It's not really rocket science. The decision to go to New York wasn't the decision. They really made a decision to go to Florida.
Mm.
See, that was the decision.
Yeah.
So you can't say, oh, I decided to go to New York, but you wind up in Florida. No, you decided to go to Florida. That was a decision.
Yeah.
And every habit, everything that happened after that wound you up over here. I mean, I can't just say, oh, I'm going to decide to build five houses next year. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, well, I started this other business and I got a car dealership now. You know, well, exactly. Well, where did that come from? I thought you decided to build houses. Well, I am. I'm going to do it again. I'm making a decision to build houses. But you never go build houses. You built something else. You built a sauna. You built a pool. You bought a, I don't know, whatever the case may be. You didn't build houses, but you can't say you made a decision when you're actually doing everything other than what you made the decision to do.
Yeah. So you need to evaluate the barrier that's standing in between, like really committing to that decision.
Right. What's the problem behind the problem?
Right.
Why are we not, when we make a decision and you say you make a decision, why are we not going, what's really going on here? So we need to evaluate that and find out what's really going on.
Yeah.
You know, there's a great moment in that reminds me of a moment in Rocky 3. I grew up, I love watching the Rocky movies. I think a lot of people did. That's not just me. But there was a point in Rocky 3 where he's going to fight Mr. T, and he fought Mr. T the first time, and his manager died, and Mr. T he knocked him out, right away, and so his manager died. He was feeling all sorry for himself and doing this, and the guy that he fought in the first 2 movies, Apollo Creed, came up to him after he was in the gym, and Apollo Creed showed up at the gym and decided to train him. He's like, I want to train you. You're going to fight this guy? And he's like, yeah, I want to fight him. Rocky's like, yeah, I want to fight him. And so he's like, all right, we're going to train my way. So he took him to these places and started training him the way that Apollo trained. And it wasn't working. His wife was out there. Adrian was out there. And they're running up and down the beach. And Apollo's like, oh, he just doesn't want it. He said he wants it. He goes, I don't know what's going on. And so they're running down the beach, and all of a sudden he just gave up again. And Apollo's like, I don't know what to do with this guy. You go talk to him. So his wife goes and talks to him. They're on the beach. He goes to talk to him. And he says, she's like, what's going on? He's like, well, I just don't want it. Want to know more. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he's given all these reasons and talking about this reason and that reason. And well, I'm just trying to watch out for you guys and the family. And she says something along these lines, like, what do we have that can't be replaced? We got houses, we got cars, we got money, we got everything but the truth. She said, what's the truth? He said, well, I'm afraid. For the first time in my life, I'm afraid. And she's like, well, I'm afraid too. There's nothing wrong with being afraid, but there is. For me, there is. So they're having this argument. Finally, they got the truth out. The problem behind the problem was he was afraid. For the first time in his life, he was afraid. So now they're able to deal with this issue of fear. I think that's a lot of what people deal with is fear. They're afraid. They got this choice and they're afraid. What happens if I fail? There's fear. There's all kinds of fears that people deal with in their life. But that moment, it was just because I love that. I love that scene because it really gets to and that's probably, I don't know where I came up with the problems were never really a problem, but that was it. That was a perfect example. He's like, finally he broke out and he admitted he was afraid. And so now they dealt with it. And now that he got that off his chest, now they can deal with the real problem.
Yeah.
Then the rest was history. He went, knocked out Chloe, had this confidence and just, fought Mr. T a second time and knocked him out, and he's the champion again. Right. And so, the Rocky story continues. But I think it's just true in all of our lives. There's always that hidden thing. What's the truth? What's really the reason you didn't make that decision, guys, gals? Why? Well, because of this. No, tell me the truth, because they know what the truth is. Every person knows what the truth is and why they're not going to make that decision. So they just have to make it. Everyone knows. It's just a matter of how they're going to bring it out, who they're going to bring it out to. When are they going to just face this reality, face this fear? Most of the time, it's fear.
Well, I think we're coming to the end of this episode. There's been a lot of good information, tons of stuff. What were you going to say?
No, I was just loaded. I think I feel, I feel really good. I mean, there's just a lot of good stuff. I believe is going to really help people in this episode, and how to change your life, how to change your mind, take 100%. Control of your life, get on the right path. And man, if you guys need help, email us. We're here. We want to help you. If there's some questions you have or something, email us. We'll respond. We'll help you out as best we can. And hopefully what we shared was helpful. And there's a couple more components on mindset that I intentionally didn't want to get into today, but we're going to save that for our next.
But before we go, like leaving people with one thing like that they can go do, because you just heard a ton of great information, a ton of stuff. Like, what is something that they can take and into action, would you say, and go and do? Would it be facing that fear? Maybe not even facing it, but writing it down. Like, what would you say?
You got to write it down. You've got to make a note about this, because I tell people these things. If you feel bad about whatever these things that you're feeling insecure about, bad about, that you want to change in your life, write them down, all of them. Get them out on the paper. That you don't have to share it with anybody, but the first step is get that down. Then the next step is we're going to flip the script, and we're going to turn all of those negative things into positive. I'm not asking you to believe those things yet, because you're not going to. Right now, you believe what's over here, the things that you wrote down. First step, write these things down. Mm-hmm. Then we're going to flip the script, and we're going to start to create the new destination of you. We're going to stop going to Florida and all these other places. We're going to set the destination for New York. We're going to set up that roadmap, that plan for your life, where you want to be. Set the destination up, and then we're going to start writing the script, writing the path to get to that destination. But it starts, for most people, it doesn't start. The first step is never the destination, because that's always a wish. You don't believe it anyway. You got to deal with the unbelief right now. Write down the unbelief. Write down the things you don't like that you want to change. And then we're going to roadmap the change.
That's so good. Would you say, just another follow-up question for that, because you just said that the first step is not choosing the destination. Is that what the decision? Would you say the first step is making that decision and writing it down? Or is it simply just writing it down, and then we've got the decision once we start to believe in ourselves?
So that good question. So I think the decision to make a change in your life starts with you starting to write this stuff down.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I'm going to own this. I'm going to start making. So now all of this is now the process to making that change. All right. So then we'll get to the point, now it's not a decision. The decision is to make some change. How do you make change in your life? First, write down the things that you don't like. People may have way other opinions. This is from my experience, from my perspective, things that I've learned from books that I've read, psycho-cybernetics, and a handful of other, psychology books. These are where I get this information from to create this mindset that I have right now. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. It works for me. It's where I'm at. It's the process that I went through, and it's helped lots and lots of people. And so you write it down, and you just write down all the things that you don't like about yourself. I wrote them all down, and I flipped the script. So that's now the process to start getting you to change. If you want to go buy the book Psycho-Cybernetics and read that. Powerful book. I mean, but it's only as powerful as to the things that you apply in your life.
Yeah.
It's only as powerful if you believe it. You have to get to the point where you start to believe those things in your life. I can only tell Madison how great she is until she believes it. It's
Right.
not. So in all these books can tell you how you can do this and that and how great you are, but you have to do it for yourself, and you have to get to the point where you renew your mind.
Yeah. So good. So good.
Yep.
So much great information. Well, we hope that you again share with us, email us, know that you're not in this journey alone. And yeah, we will see you next time. Do you have anything else to add?
No, just you guys can do it. I mean, this is why we do these things, to encourage you, to strengthen you, to cast a belief in you. You can make a change in your life for the better. I promise you. Just hang in there and do some of these simple. They seem simple. They seem like they don't mean much, but they're very, very powerful. And we just wish you the best. And tune in next time.
We believe in you.
Yeah, we believe in you. You can do it.
Yes.
And so yeah, tune in next time, and we're going to just continue down this. You're going to hear a couple other examples of where we'll bring on some guests to talk more about this stuff and mindsets, and got a couple more thoughts that we're going to personally share on mindsets that are going to really help you as well.
Yes. See you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks so much for joining us today on the Legacy Builders podcast. Make sure to share this episode with your friends and family, and remember, today is a great day to start building your legacy.